Hi guys, today gonna be a simple build, gonna be making a well with a little bit of modularity to it. And to start with, taking some underfloor insulation, cutting a disc, and then beveling the edge. Clean knife currently pending. Then, with a strip of styrofoam, just cutting out a few large bricks. And only need about 8 or 9 of these. And just gently bending them with your fingers. It doesn't matter if they break, because you can just stick them together and it becomes 2 bricks anyway. And using a tinfoil ball to put some stone texture on them. And then working around in a circle, gluing them down until you have a 2 brick high well. And I wanted a canopy to go over the top, so with some beams of balsa wood, just cut a few 45-degree angles and various beams to create a rough covering. I then constructed the actual roof out of some coffee stirrers, trimmed down to the right size. I then added a few more styrofoam rocks to the base to act as guidelines for the beams. And then, using the well so the sizing can be correct, I attached the crossbeam to the supports. And then glued together the other side of the roof. Then, with the crossbeam in place, I attached the side supports. And then, just to get a slightly nicer fit, I use a knife to bevel the edge of the top beam, just so it would sit completely flush with the roof sections. And then glued the roof sections to the beams, leaving a small gap on the top where the crossbeam would be visible. Then did a quick test fit, and decided it needed a wooden rod in the middle as something you could chuck a bucket over. So, taking a pin vise and the largest drill bit I had, I drilled a hole through either side and pushed a cocktail stick through. And then used a pair of clippers to remove the pointy bit. Then I applied some more styrofoam rocks to the base around each of the side supports, so that the roof would be removable but would still stand by itself. And just making sure it's a reasonably tight fit between the rocks and the beam. Then, to add some shingles, taking some bits of cardboard, cutting some strips, and then fashioning them into various tiles. And I wanted it to appear a bit dilapidated, so I only had a few sections of tiling, which also helps with the sanity of cutting them out. I then glued the tiles on top of the roof in various haphazard kind of piles and clusters, with a lot of gaps between where you can see the woodwork underneath. Then mixing up a small amount of basing paste out of a few bits of flock, some black gesso, and PVA glue, and using this on the base as well as between any of the stones to act as kind of a rough, crumbly mortar. And while that's still wet, taking the opportunity to push a few small aquarium stones into the base as well. And once that's dry, giving the entire thing a coat of black gesso to seal it together and provide a base coat. And I find adding a little bit of water to the gesso really helps when applying it to wood. And then hitting the entire piece with a mid-acrylic brown, followed by a mid-grey on all of the stonework, as well as the pebbles on the base. Next up is a tan colour by mixing white with the previous brown and giving the entire thing a quick coat of that. And again, adding a bit of water will help apply it to the balsa wood, as it tends to be a lot more porous. And then a thinner coat on the base just to pick out the details and blend the piece together. Then, taking some white paint, going in and giving a highlight on all of the stonework, mainly focusing on the top side. And this will help to really pick out the details of the stone texture we used the tinfoil ball for earlier. Then we're going to weather the wood slightly with a light grey and just giving it an edge highlight, as well as kind of a light dry brush. And with a slightly darker grey, just hitting the tiles and giving them a little bit of stippling and a bit of edge highlighting. Then, to add a bit more weathering, with a green paint and diluting it quite heavily with water, just going in and anywhere there'd be water damage or any kind of plant life growing, just giving that a quick glaze. And by changing the dilution and the concentration within the same area, you can get some nice little effects where you have a higher area of growth or lighter. And hitting the lower area of the legs, where it's more likely to be damp from the well. Then, to add a bit of greenery, taking two different types of clump foliage, mixing it together with PVA into a nice slimy kind of paste. Then applying it on the roof, between the tiles as moss, as well as around the base, just to be some kind of light shrubbery and weeds. Then, completely unnecessary step, but to make the inside of the well look a little bit damp, using some Vallejo still water effects, and dropping maybe a dozen drips into the centre. Then, to blend the foliage in, using some diluted, very dark brown paint from AK Interactive, and this will also mattify the gloss of the PVA a bit. And I also painted up two spare strips of balsa wood, just to act as kind of planks that you sometimes see on wells, I guess to stop people falling in. And then taking some tufts, applying one or two strategically around the base. And then taking a few tiny leaves made using a hole punch and gluing them around the base as well. And this is a great opportunity to cover up any areas where the paint job doesn't look as good, or if maybe there's a little bit of the undercolour showing through. And there we have it, a well that can be used a few ways, as either an abandoned well or as a functioning town well. And it's fairly time period agnostic, so it can be used in a lot of different settings. And along with my previous builds, I seem to have accidentally built some kind of hamlet. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, catch you next week.